Greetings and welcome, people. It has been quite a long time. By my reckoning, getting on for 8 months since Babe and I last travelled the roads. We're sitting in diesel from that bus in front. But anyway, yes, long time. Just basically shifted focus to other things in life. Nothing dramatic or serious, just other stuff. But with Babe's MOT coming up in a week or so, I thought it's time to get Babe dusted off, shaken down and spruced up. So I've done quite a bit of work over the last few weeks, some of which was long overdue. It's quite a list of works. The first thing was I had not cleaned and serviced the air filter for quite some time. And when I took the filter element out of the box, I'll put a picture here of what it looked like, and basically cleaning and oiling it wasn't going to be a viable proposition at all. So I ended up buying a new air filter. You can't get them from Triumph anymore, and even when they sold them, they only sold them as a complete airbox with the filter in, even though the filter is made of foam and metal mesh. Triumph don't want you to service it, they want you to replace it, but most people get around that by opening the airbox anyway and cleaning and re-oiling the filter. So I had done that previously, but not for a while, and this time when I took it out of there, I found it in this condition and thought, no, that is not going to work. So new pipe across air filter. If I can find the invoices, I'll stick the prices on there. So that was one thing. Another item that had been sadly neglected. Yes, I hold my hands up. I'm guilty of being a terrible motorcycle owner. And the other thing was new spark plugs. 4 new spark plugs. New NGKs. When I was doing those, I carefully inspected the HT leads, because this bike has separate coils and spark plug leads. They don't have coil on plug like more modern machines. It is possible to convert them, but it's very expensive. You basically have to change the ECU on this bike. If you've got the 3-cylinder 900 Hinkley Triumphs, or the 750 or whichever, it is a much easier task to simply put a coil on plug on each plug and wire it, because those bikes, the 3-cylinder bikes, have 3 separate coils, whereas this bike has 2 coils and 2 spark plugs share a coil, and that makes things a lot more complicated. So yes, new spark plugs. Check the condition of the plug leads, and I was particularly looking for any cracks or splits or any evidence of burn through. I've seen that on other spark plug caps, the full length rubber boots, spark plug boots, where you get a little grey dot on the sidewall, which basically means that the spark has been arcing through the plug boot instead of going down to the plug. But there was no evidence of that. They looked fine, so yes, I could have purchased a whole new set of 4, but I didn't really have a spare £100 or so lying around to be able to afford to do that. So while I was in and around the airbox and the carburetor area, I tightened up the adjustment on the throttle cable. It had come loose at the carburetor end. It was still functioning, but the adjustment on the handlebar end was out to its maximum, and there's still still an excessive amount of free play in the throttle. So that is now much nicer. What else did I do? Of course, obviously, oil and filter change, and on the fueling side, the petcock had started leaking. It's a vacuum controlled petcock, and it had started leaking. So I had another petcock at home that that was actually the original petcock from this bike. I replaced it a few years ago because it was heavy. It was leaking back then. But then I refurbished the original one, and that is now back on the bike. And I also was aware that the 2 fuel lines that go from the petcock to the carburetors were the original fuel lines to the bike. So what would that make that? 94, it's nearly 30 years old. And I'd already had to trim one of them because the end had started to crack and split, and it was cracking and splitting again. So I thought, no, it's time to retire these, get some new ones. And it was a good job I did, because the old ones were quite hard. Would obviously not have lasted much longer. I don't know whether ethanol in the fuel had anything to do with that. But the new ones, Triumph Original of course, they were nice and soft and supple and fitted. I was worried that I was going to have trouble getting them onto the carburetor end of things, but no, they just fitted nicely. Big glider up there, you see the glider? Yeah, they fitted on just nicely. And while I was doing that, one thing I did notice is that the vacuum connection for the Scott oiler had, I believe, broken off. From the T connector in the vacuum line from the number 2 carburetor. Was it number 3 carburetor? I'm not sure. Woohoo! Now I don't know whether that finally broke off when I was messing around under there and I was able to see it, or whether it had been broken a while. But obviously that would have been a vacuum leak on that cylinder, air intake leak, which might have contributed to rough running and poor starting. But that is now fixed. Now I'm trying to think what else I've done. Oh dear. I did sit down before I left the house and go through this list of things that I've done. But of course, as soon as I start riding, it all goes out of my head. Oh yes, while I was working around the carburettor and the air intake area, I noticed that there's an access panel on top of the alternator and starter drive gear area, and I think there must have been leakage of fuel or something that basically stripped the paint off that. So what I did was I found someone selling a new old stock one of those, which I purchased, and that is now on the bike. And what I will do is I will get the old one media blasted and I will have a go at painting that myself. And of course I gave everything under there a good clean while I was about it. I mean, this is a 94 bike, so this is 29 years old now, so things under there are not going to be in pristine condition. It's got 64,000 miles on the clock, so yeah, things are going to look a bit vintage, shall we say. I would love to have the bike completely disassembled and refurbished to showroom condition, but I'd never have the money to do that sort of thing, to be honest. So if I think of anything else that I've done, spent money on, as I'm on my way around this little test circuit I've decided on. This is basically like a local loop that I do for short trips, and I'm using it as a shakedown track at the moment, just not a race track, just to sort of ride round, make sure everything's as it should be, nothing's falling off, nothing's leaking. Yes, it's probably deja vu. Yes, I've seen this bit before and we will see it again, because the MOT, as I say, is on Tuesday and the fuel is a little bit low, so I want to go and stick a gallon or two in the tank, because MOT places don't like you bringing in vehicles with not very much fuel. In fact, I'm not entirely sure that it might actually be an MOT failure if your vehicle runs out of fuel while it's going through the MOT test. Oh, when I changed the oil and filter, I did go back to the 1040 oil that it always should have had. And to be honest, I think the gear changes are a bit smoother. The down changes are always a bit clunky. There is no blipper or quick shifter on this bike. Obviously, being a nearly 30-year-old bike. But it does what I need it to. I don't need to save those extra hundredths or so of a second on gear changes. Whew. So yes, I had to basically kick myself up the backside and say, get on with getting your bike sorted. I mean, I keep banging on about how much I love this bike, yet I pretty much neglected it for nearly 8 months, which is not good. So yeah, I'll probably do another, after this circuit of the local lap, I'll do another circuit, then I'll get some fuel and then I'll call it a day. and take Babe home. I'll probably try and get out for another ride if I can before the MOT. The one thing I didn't want to do was to be the first ride after 8 months of not riding and after having done a load of work, to be the one where I take it for its MOT. To be fair, I didn't touch anything that would involve anything sort of safety wise. The only thing that was an issue after I put it all back together was when I started it up, one of the carburettor vents did start overflowing, so obviously one of the float needles was stuck, and I just got a plastic handle screwdriver and gave the carburettor a smart tap on the side, and that leak shut off. So one of the things I'm going to be watching for right now is any petrol leakage from anywhere in the carburetors. Yep, the low fuel warning light is on. So yep, definitely need to just put just a gallon or so. And the other thing I did while I was doing the work was I also tidied up some of the wiring that's under the seat, where I've added various accessories like the camera and lights and things like that. All of it is additional wiring to the standard loom. I've not hacked the loom in any way, so if I need to, I can take it all out and put the wiring back to completely factory standard. But I think, unless I can think of anything else I've done, I'll replace a few bolts here and there, the original factory ones going rusty. That in itself is an ongoing exercise. There are so many bolts and fasteners on this bike that are now rusting or degraded. They've lost their chrome coating, don't look nice anymore, so I'm replacing them gradually with stainless steel. I don't know if you can see, there's a stainless steel fastener down there on the fairing inner panel, which at the moment is the bright stainless steel, but I've just ordered some black stainless steel ones to go there. That's what they should be black. So other than that, I think I'm going to have to stop spending so much money on this bike for now, because I think my wife is getting a little bit aggrieved with how much I've been spending on this. Nothing massively expensive, just lots of little things. I think the air filter was about £40. The spark plugs were about, I want to say, £20 for 4. The two fuel lines were quite expensive because they were original Triumph. Off the top of my head, I want to say they were about £30 for the two, which does seem expensive for a couple of bits of rubber tube, but they are pre-shaped to suit the bike. 2 wheels and engine. It's a motorbike, it counts. The cover panel for the engine over the alternator starter drive area was, I think that was about £40 as well, but like I said, it's new old stock, it's absolutely pristine. I think it's got one small storage scratch on it, which quite happy to live with that. At least it's got, the rest of the paint is pretty damn perfect, so unlike the original one, which is almost completely peeled off. and of course I had to have a gasket for that. Unfortunately, the original gasket that was under the original panel split. Part was stuck to one half, part was stuck to the other half, and so I can't think of anything else at the moment. I know something that is going to need doing, unless anything fails on the MOT that has to be addressed. I am hoping to get new tyres. Sometime fairly soon, but that could be quite a significant purchase. And I'm planning on going to Avon's when I get them. So yeah, I wouldn't mind getting some Michelin Road tyres, but they don't do them in the fitment for this bike. This bike has an 18-inch diameter rear wheel, so yeah, limited choices. I could change the rear wheel to a later trophy wheel, but I'd have to change the front one as well because they're different designs. So yeah, the new front and back tyre for this would probably be something in the order of £170 for the pair. So yeah, I might have to wait a bit for that one. So as I say, unless anything else of interest comes to mind, I think I'll call that the end of the video. Hopefully I will have released an earlier video, a tabletop video of something else I needed to address. But if I haven't got round to that yet, that may be coming soon. It depends how the editing goes. If I decide while I'm editing it that it's excuse me, that it's just not worth the time of editing and uploading, then it will not see the light of day. But I may decide to go just what the heck. I think it's a pretty unique video. I don't think you'll find anything else like it on YouTube or any other streaming platform. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I may just decide to put it out just for the hell of it. Give you a laugh if nothing else, maybe. I don't know, might do. It may give you one of those what the hell is he doing moments. But anyway, there we go. Babe is back up and running. It seems to be running very nicely. I think it's running much smoother than it did before. I think that's because of that I think it was potentially cracked on the vacuum connection for the Scott oiler. So yeah, I'm liking it a lot. So thank you for taking a look. Glad to be back out on the road. Hope you've all been enjoying the weather, getting out on your bikes. Oh dear, excuse me. Of course I haven't been enjoying the hay fever, but there we go. Nothing much I can do about that. But again, thanks for taking a look, and I'll speak to you again on the next one, which I hope will be within a week or so. Bye for now. Cheerio.